Well, it's a beautiful day. I hope it's not too windy in the microphone. I am polishing headlamps today, and I have polished probably 7 sets of headlights in my life. So I'm not a pro, but sometimes it's no fun getting advice from pros because they recommend equipment that's just totally cost prohibitive for the normal person to own and purchase. And so hopefully my advice will be helpful, and it won't just be I did it for the first time and it worked. I have done it many times and I've learned some things over the years, and so I'll share those things with you here briefly. The first thing that I'm going to recommend is that you blow out your sandpaper several times while cleaning the lamp. So all you really need is some compressed air. If you didn't have a compressor, you could use some of that compressed air in the bottle. And I'm just going to show you the difference really quick. So you can see the color come back. It's even more obvious on a red pad, but you can still see there's tons of stuff lodged in there. So by doing that, you're going to do a couple things. First of all, you're going to speed up the sanding significantly, which is important because you have a lot of sanding to do. And once you start getting fatigued, you start skipping areas and you stop being thorough, and the results aren't as good. The second thing that can happen is, depending on what speed you're running this at, if you're running it on a rotary tool of some sort, is you can basically get like little hot spots in there, and the plastic will sort of melt, and then it'll turn into like a new cutter and you'll get fresh scrapes. The other thing that you want to do with the air hose is you want to blow off the lamp in between grits. You don't want to leave some of your old grit on there. That will really slow down your progress. The next thing is you always want to keep the pad flat on the surface. As soon as you begin to tip, let's say that you're applying 30 pounds of pressure. As soon as you tip, you are completely changing the cutting depth and the cutting speed. That's how physics works, right? If you have 30 pounds going over this surface or 30 pounds going into that surface, it just totally changes it. And so you can really start to kind of take 1 step forward and 2 steps back if you don't keep the pad flat. So keep it flat and let the foam or whatever it is that you have do the work. Now these actually came with my lathe when I bought it. So they're these twist-on deals, and then this part is Velcro. There's a lot of different ways to do this, and some of the results or some of the changes are obvious, like you don't have to rub with your hand if it's a rotary tool. One thing you want to avoid is using any tool that spins too fast. If you go too fast, you get too much heat, you can actually start to melt the lamp, and you can also, you're more likely to get those little like calluses, if you will, built up in here. The next thing that I'd recommend, and this isn't really for the quality of the lamp, but for the tools, is if you have 2 drills, consider switching the drills in between grits. So do like 180 with this one, 240 with this one, back and forth. Drills are not really meant to be run for like 30 minutes straight. You'll create a lot of heat. The heat is not good for the motors, and your tools will just last longer if you alternate them out. I try and do this with a variety of jobs, not just headlights, but something to think about. The next thing is the spray that you use at the end. So I have used several sprays. Some of them have not held up for very long, and I like to use this one. It's 30 bucks on Amazon, and on their website they recommend the pattern of sanding. So it's like 180, I think 280, and then they start recommending wet sanding at 1,000 grit. So I've been using their recommendation, and it's worked well. What makes this special is that. So this is a double-sided can. This is actually an epoxy. Now, I've been in automotive almost 20 years, been a homeowner almost 10, and I have found a general trend, and that is anytime you have an epoxy-related product where you have to mix 2 chemicals together, the result is almost always superior to a single chemical, which either dries with air or the alcohol inside of it evaporates, those kinds of things. The other thing that I've seen over and over again is that like long set epoxy that requires 24 hours is way better than quick set epoxy. And that's kind of an obvious thing if you just take 1 step back. Most of the time, the things in life that are convenient and fast are not as good as the things that are inconvenient and slow. Anyhow, so this is actually 2K stands for two, actually it stands for two Componente, 2 component. That's a German phrase that has made it into the English epoxy world, 2K products. But this stuff, I haven't used it yet. So just total transparency, I haven't used this yet. I don't know how it's going to hold up. I just know that the several products that I've sprayed on that were not 2K, not epoxies, they didn't last even a year. And I did some research and really dug into it a little bit more and realized that this was the stuff. So I can't endorse this. I'm not selling it, anything like that. But this is what I'm going to be using this time. I've always had good success getting them clean and polished. I haven't had good success keeping them that way, but I'm going to put quite a bit of confidence in this product simply because it's epoxy. So basically the way it works is you take this red cap off and you shove this in the bottom. And when you do that, you activate this lower canister to start mixing with this upper canister. And then you have something like 8 hours, I think it said, before it's no longer useful, because that's kind of how epoxy works, is once you mix it, it starts to cure. So anyway, that's, yeah, my last tip. So again, I'm not a professional, but sometimes the advice that pros give isn't helpful because they're recommending that you have, super expensive components and equipment that you just don't have. And yeah, so I've done 7 or 8 of these things, always had good results getting them polished, haven't had good results keeping them polished. I'm hoping this is the trick, but hopefully my sanding tricks will speed up the process a little bit for you and make the results a little bit cleaner. Last thing I forgot to say, probably the most important sanding disc that you'll use is the first one. This is 120, or no, 180. If you don't do good with the 180, you're never going to do good with the next ones. You're always going to be working harder with a finer grit to polish out what you should have got with this one. So be really thorough with this one. And if you start getting tired or lazy or your arm starts to hurt, just take a break, because it doesn't help to do a really good job in the beginning and then get sloppy and skip stuff. The results will suffer. I know that from firsthand experience, but get yourself an air compressor or similar, spray out the pads, spray off the lamp, and start wet sanding at 1,000, and hopefully you'll have really good results. All right, folks, if you didn't like that, that's okay. Give it a thumbs down. Go check out Project Farm. He compared recently a bunch of headlight restoration kits. It's a great channel, more interesting than mine. And if you didn't like this, I hope you'll like his.